Hey guys, welcome to Y&R Daily Update YouTube channel. Today's topics: Young and the Restless spoilers reveal that Traci's return brings a new twist to the plot. Kane predicted a lot of uncertainty before Traci's arrival. Jack and Diane's early morning text messages prompted her to immediately catch a flight back. Amy Lewis was drowning in grief over a recent loss and needed someone to stand by instead of a crowd of advice. Traci knew that for Amy, condolences were not as good as the presence of someone she could trust. But as soon as she hugged Jack and Diane on the front porch, Traci sensed another turmoil in Genoa's air: rumors of Kane Ashby's return, the disjointed pieces surrounding a strange yet familiar name, Aristotle Dumas, and Billy's decline like a lost ship. Genoa is like that, an event that never travels alone. On the way to Amy's house, Traci reviewed what she'd heard. Kane had left years ago in a tangled web of honor, affection, and accumulated mistakes. Now, a new skin had been cast over the old man, the scheming billionaire Aristotle Dumas, whose name was a powerful brand in backroom deals, present at negotiating tables where most people saw only a signature, not a face. Rumors said Aristotle Dumas didn't appear in public. He preferred to operate from afar, shrouding decisions in a tangled web of legal and financial matters. If Aristotle Dumas and Kane Ashby were the same person, Genoa was in for a real earthquake. After spending enough time with Amy to calm down and get her practical needs, rest, paperwork, and phone calls to return, Traci returned to the Abbott house where Jack and Diane were waiting. The conversation between the three was not a retelling of rumors, but an attempt to piece together a map of interests. What deals did Kane return to? Who was he connected to? Why was Billy slipping away at this time? Jack looked at Traci in his usual role, pacemaker. Diane, practical and shrewd, pointed out legal loopholes of Kane, or rather Aristotle, was quietly amassing shares in satellite units, squeezing liquidity in a few venture funds to put pressure on Jabao or its close partners. In that context, Traci calmly laid out a principle. We don't chase shadows. Let's go find the source of shadows. With the name Aristotle Dumas haunting every call, Traci was forced to confront an old layer of memory. About 6 years ago, in the days when she was working on a new manuscript, a gentle friendship had blossomed between her and Kane. There were no promises, no blurred lines, just appreciation. Kane had once inspired Traci to create a character, a man learning to redeem himself from his empty glory. When Kane wanted to go further, Traci refused. She chose to preserve that kindness in him, to put it in literature so it wouldn't be eroded by life. And perhaps because of that, she saw Kane differently than many people. She saw both the dark corners and the possibility of redemption. But now, the new version of Kane wasn't just a man trying to get back on his feet. It was a seasoned strategist whose veneer of power covered up all the cracks. Aristotle Dumas shook things up not by making noise, but by changing the rules of the game. The news about Billy came pouring in all at once, the half-hearted decisions, the moves that seemed courageous but were actually knee-jerk reactions. In Genoa, one missed breath and you were at a disadvantage. Traci didn't judge Billy. She understood the tension between pride and pressure, between the need to prove yourself and the fear of letting others down again. But she also understood that this was a gap that Aristotle Dumas, if he was Kane, would exploit. By placing a few pieces in the right place, he could force Billy into a trap. That afternoon, Traci chose not to retreat into the family trenches. She went to society, not to show off, but to get into the center of the communication circuits. In Genoa, society was where news traveled faster than any official channel. At the bar, she ran into Michael. A small conversation, light, measured, but enough for Traci to pick up a few echoes. Contract adjustments at some law firm, discreet calls involving Billy, and a name mentioned with hesitation.
Kane.
Michael didn't say much, but the way he paused mid-sentence, looking into his glass, as if measuring his words, was a sign something was going on behind the scenes, and it required his involvement, at least as a sounding board. A few minutes later, Kane walked in with Phyllis. Subscribe our channel for more latest update. They weren't flashy, but their presence changed the mood. Phyllis, as usual, charming and sharp, brought with the energy of someone willing to light a fire if it would help her reach her goals. They saw Traci and Michael at the same table. Without flinching, Kane ushered Phyllis forward. The greeting between Kane and Traci was brief, polite, even a little warm. But behind Kane's eyes was the weariness of someone who knew Traci was no longer just a gentle rider. She was standing on the front lines protecting her family. After a few pleasantries, Kane broke off with Michael, leading Phyllis to watch the conversation at the other table. Outside on the porch, the conversation between Kane and Michael proceeded like a game of express chess. Kane made no overt threats. He pressed with the certainty of someone with a backup plan. He talked about stability in Genoa, about the downsides if Billy continued to react without calculation, and about how a lawyer as skilled as Michael could help solve the problem with Billy smoothly, emphasizing the word smoothly, as if it were a gift and not a hoop. Michael responded calmly, asserting that he could handle it, but not selling out on principles. He didn't promise to take sides. He just promised to prevent a small mistake from becoming a disaster. Kane smiled. For him, that was all it took. A less brash Billy was a more manageable chessboard. Traci watched Phyllis. She knew Phyllis wasn't the type to go out to dinner just to eat well. Any dinner could be a strategy meeting. Traci started by talking about old times, asking pleasantries, but quickly pivoted to a seemingly harmless question. Why are there so many anonymous investors in Genoa these days? Phyllis smiled, her eyes glancing into the mirror as if checking the room's reaction. Anonymity is a digital privilege. Publicity isn't always wise. That confirmed to Traci what she had suspected. The Aristotle Dumas veil wasn't a baseless rumor. It was an active defense strategy. Late that night, Traci returned to the Abbott house and laid out what she'd seen and heard before Jack and Diane. She didn't leave out Amy, the one who had brought her back in the first place. Because Traci knew that in power struggles, the most vulnerable were always those at the edges of the map of interests. Traci proposed a two-pronged plan. The first branch, protect Billy by controlling the pace, avoiding his reactive decision-making, surrounding him with positive influencers, pulling him out of his narcissistic spirals. The second branch, peeling back Aristotle Dumas, not through emotional accusations, but by uncovering the money trails, the middlemen and the shell entities operating in Genoa's dealings. If Aristotle Dumas were Kane, he would have slipped somewhere, Traci said. Financial power leaves a white line on the surface of the water. It appears and disappears, but it doesn't disappear. The next morning, Traci met with Michael privately in his office. This conversation was deeper, without the formalities. She asked directly, "Were you asked to influence Billy?" Michael did not deny that Kane had pressured him. He admitted to having heard kind offers to avoid a collision for Genoa, but he also made it clear, "I will prevent disaster, but I will not act as the ambassador for any plan that benefits one person at the expense of the many." With this answer, Traci found a principled ally. She asked Michael to watch for unusual legal moves, petitions, sudden authorizations, settlement clauses that were thrust in and out like a test of reaction because that was where true intentions were often revealed. That same day, Traci returned to society not to meet anyone but to allow a chance encounter. And, as expected, Kane showed up alone without Phyllis. Traci did not beat around the bush. She recalled their friendship, the character she had written inspired by Kane's kindness, and then put a single question on the table. If you were Aristotle Dumas, would you use stabilization to buy control of the people you once called friends? Kane was silent for a beat. He neither confirmed nor denied, but his answer was a different path. Traci, Genoa needs rhythm keepers, but without a new rhythm, the city will repeat the same mistakes over and over again. He looked at her, not challenging, just as if hoping she would understand. He believed he was the new rhythm. For Traci, It was more a statement of purpose than an invitation to cooperate. From that moment on, the battle lines became clear. Jack and Diane stood behind Traci, leaving her to represent the family in an honorable confrontation, avoiding a public battle that would soon complicate things. Billy was taken out of the firing line by diffusion. He was no longer the focus of every appeal, but instead had a roadmap that was guided step by step. Subscribe our channel for more latest update. Amy, the human element in the story, was protected by Traci from psychological attacks because Traci knew that Aristotle Dumas was not just playing by the book. He could play on the emotions of vulnerable people to sway opponents. And Michael, with his astuteness, became the legal filter, noting every small movement so that when needed a logical chain of evidence could be strung together. Phyllis did not sit still. She moved like an electric current connecting the parties, suggesting win-win agreements. But beneath the glossy language was a clear norm. Those who did not keep up with the new rhythm would be left behind. Traci knew that if she just played defense, she would lose. So, she chose to attack with a weapon Genoa often underestimated: transparency. She pushed for the parties to publicize some of the cooperation terms, forced the anonymous funds to reveal their investment principles, and forced important decisions to go through a cross-check mechanism. For someone like Aristotle Dumas, light was the most annoying obstacle. The tipping point came one evening when Michael informed Traci that Kane had added more pressure, demanding that the problem with Billy be finally resolved this week. Traci arranged to meet Kane in a neutral place, the library's event room, in the middle of a quiet art gallery. She spoke slowly and clearly. If you want a stable Genoa, then start by stopping using people as leverage. Billy is not a pawn to be placed down and picked up. If you are confident in your new rhythm, convince with value, not panic. Kane looked at the still lives on the wall, as if considering. Traci, he knew, was no pushover. She didn't play a high-stakes game. She set up a playground where the rules were clear and dignity was valued. The story isn't over, but the stakes have changed. Traci has taken over for Jack, not just to take the hit, but to shape the game in a more civilized way. She doesn't deny Kane's decent past, but she also doesn't allow the Aristotle Dumas to use good memories as a talisman to legitimize his schemes. Billy has more time to breathe, to adjust his rhythm, to remember who he is without having to prove anything to everyone. Amy has a trustworthy arm to help her get back up, not become a decoration in a power struggle. Michael keeps the boundaries of his profession, resisting the temptation to take shortcuts. And Kane, while still walking like a secret keeper, has had to look Traci in the eye and understand that Genoa still has people who don't succumb to nice promises. In Genoa City, power often wears the cloak of beautiful stories. But Traci chooses a different story, a story of clarity, of refusing to turn people into means. If Aristotle Dumas is indeed Kane's new skin, it is being tested by fire. And even if the next Gamlas are risky, Traci has laid the groundwork. Any deal, if it is to last, must stand up to the light. Otherwise, it will be just another version of the chaos Genoa has grown so tired of. Traci Abbott enters Genoa City with a heavy atmosphere. The city is no longer the place she remembers. A warm, familiar place with a simple pace of life. Now, everything has changed. The name Kane Ashb is back, but not the face Traci once knew. He is no longer the flawed man trying to make amends for his past. Instead, Kane is now Aristotle Dumas, a scheming billionaire, a character that cannot be read at first glance. Everything Traci once understood about him, everything she had built in her head and heart about a man trying to start over, is now torn apart. Traci, who's always been driven by reason and justice, cannot help but question the changes in Kane. Has he really changed? Or is he just a new shell, a new strategy to achieve the goals he has always wanted? Traci loved Kane, or so she thought. And now, seeing that man standing before her with a different face, a different purpose, she feels trapped in a game with no clear rules. Not only Kane, but also Billy Abbott, Traci's brother, is being drawn into a conspiracy that is hard to escape. Things get complicated when Billy, in his desperation and disorientation, is drawn into a plot to use illegal AI technology with Kane/Dumas. The big question is, will Billy realize that he is slowly becoming a pawn in the game of the man Traci once loved? Can Traci save Billy from himself, from a conspiracy he never knew existed? Traci is not someone who can be manipulated. She is the only one in the family who can see into the hidden depths of Billy's mind and confront the issues he never wanted to admit. But this time, Traci isn't just dealing with Billy. She's dealing with Kane, with Aristotle Dumas, a man she doesn't understand. It's a dark world where relationships are no longer defined by love and loyalty, but by calculation and power. Traci will not only have to fight her own doubts about Kane, but also confront a truth she never thought she'd have to face. Is her relationship with Kane really what she imagined? Subscribe our channel for more latest update. Traci has been the neglected one in previous relationships, and discovering that Kane may have exploited her deepest insecurities to further his own goals will be a huge shock. She can't accept that someone she once considered a friend, a family member, could manipulate her emotions in ways she never imagined. But this is what made Traci realize that she could no longer stand aside. She will have to confront Kane. But the question is, what will she do when she is faced with the man she once loved? Will Traci expose all the secrets Kane is trying to hide? Or will she choose a more difficult path, trying to save him from the very darkness he is creating? Traci will have to make a choice, and it will be a decision that will change not only Kane's destiny, but Billy's future as well. As Traci learns more about the dark plot Kane/Dumas is weaving, she can't help but feel a sinking feeling in her heart. Kane is not the man she once knew. He has changed too much, and now he is no longer the man Traci could idealize. But Traci knows he is still the man she once trusted, the man she once loved. And if she doesn't act now, Billy will be the one to pay for his mistakes. Traci's story isn't just about a woman struggling with her past. It's also about sacrifice and choice. She could easily reveal Kane's entire plot and let things run their course. But is that the right thing to do? Can she save Billy and even Kane if she helps them realize the truth before it's too late? Or is she just trying to save the unsalvageable? As Traci stands face to face with Kane for their inevitable encounter, the tension between them becomes more apparent than ever. Kane, with his cold confidence and calculation, seems unshakable. He doesn't want to admit that there's anything wrong with his scheme. But Traci, with all the calm and wisdom of a sister, didn't hesitate to confront him, asking the question they both knew was inevitable. Is our relationship real? Or is it all just a game to get you something? Traci's question was like a slap in the face to Kane, forcing him to confront himself and his deeper motives. Traci couldn't continue living in a world of lies where relationships were built on calculation and self-interest. She decided that if it meant confronting Kane and breaking their relationship once and for all, then she would do it. She wouldn't let herself be manipulated, and she wouldn't let Billy continue down the wrong path. And when Traci is faced with her final choice, whether to continue protecting Billy, who is deeply entangled in the Kane/Dumas conspiracy, or to expose everything to save her family, she knows that the only thing that can save Billy is the moral authority she still holds. Not power, not money, but honesty and determination to do what is right. Traci has learned that while life can be complicated and full of difficult situations, in the end, the truth is the only thing that can save people. The confrontation between Traci and Kane will be more than just a battle for power and money, but also a struggle for values, for integrity, and for the decisions that each person must face in life. Traci will not be a stranger to this story. She will be the balance keeper, the one who can ultimately save Billy and maybe Kane, if he is even salvageable. But will the truth be strong enough to overcome the darkness that Kane has fallen into? Or will Traci have to face the fact that sometimes saving someone means letting them go? Traci's story is not just about choices, but about what we are willing to do to protect the people we love, even if it means sacrificing the things that matter most in our lives. Subscribe to our channel to stay updated with the latest news. Subscribe our channel for more latest update.